So let's talk for a minute here about living resourced. Living resourced is intentional. This is an intentional thing that you have the responsibility to do, and the privilege and the ability to be able to use these resources to change your life. But that's not going to happen accidentally. Now, you may be using resources accidentally. You may be using resources intentionally, purposefully, and not even realizing that they're resources for your life. But you're not going to live a resourced life without being very intentional about it. So you want to start your planning, making the decisions before that you get there. The decisions need to be made before you get to the actual day. So when you wake up in the morning, you need to already have a plan, setting up your routines. You want a morning routine, a nighttime routine specifically, and then other routines as you need them through the day. But working on those habits in the morning and at night, even if that just starts with one of these resources that you use in the morning or one at night or whatever that looks like for you. Now, for me, my life includes extra time in the morning. I don't have a set time that I need to be anywhere usually. And so I have this ability to sit and actually plan my day in the morning. I use a little bit extra time to get started, and I'll go through, plan my day, kind of have three things that I want to accomplish, but then doing my routines, all of that. If you have a busy morning, if your schedule is you wake up at an alarm clock and you've got to go, you've got to, get to where you're going, whether that's work, school, whatever it is, then you want to be planning the night before. Like, you want to be taking that little bit of extra time, half an hour to an hour, to just calm down and think through what you've got going on. Make all of the decisions the night before, or while you're planning, make as many decisions as possible. And so I know one of the things that my husband does, because he wakes up early to get to work, and he always the night before will set out his clothes, pick out his outfit, what he's going to wear. I highly recommend that, because you're not having to make last minute crazy decisions in the morning, feel like you're rushing around. That's less rush. He sets out food that he's going to take, or has a reminder that it's in the fridge, makes whatever lunch or breakfast or whatever he's going to do, sets up his coffee so that it's just ready to go and ready to start underneath the coffee maker. And then he's got everything out and ready for when he gets up in the morning. So when he gets up in the morning, it's a very strict routine. It's like he gets up, he drinks his water, takes whatever vitamins, goes and gets his coffee started, gets in the shower while his coffee is being made. He's already got all his stuff out, and he puts all of that on. And then he goes out, puts his shoes on, gets his stuff together, and then he's out the door. He doesn't have to rush around like a madman, which is great for me, because that makes him quieter too, that he's not having to go back and forth and turn on lights and all of that. It's pretty early in the morning when he gets up. So you may have to make those decisions the night before, or, just depending on your schedule, depending on what your schedule looks like. I know some people work at night, so that's going to interfere with when you would make your planning time. The important thing is not when it is. The important thing is that you do it beforehand. You make these decisions before they're actually coming upon you, because then you're able to be more intentional. You have more time. You're less hurried, and it doesn't activate your nervous system as much. You can keep your nervous system calmer, so you're not starting the day or starting whatever you have to get to off with this burst of stress. And let me give you just an example from my own life. I used to get up and just kind of go with the day. I would get up and I'd be like, what am I doing now? And then I'd rush to the next thing. I was constantly hurrying. I was making lunches for the kids while I was trying to get them ready for school. And, then we're finding backpacks and papers and homework and all of this, people sitting at the counter doing homework. All of these things were happening in the morning, and my system would just be like constantly in stress mode. And then I get them to school, and then I'm like lost. I feel lost in the day. I'm like, what next? What do I do next? And I'm like looking around for things to do. My house is in chaos. I don't know where to start. And I just feel like I'm overwhelmed and overloaded. there's not going to be any margin or space. I've got to get through all of this. Then, my husband would call up and he'd be like, I need you to do this, this, and this. And, that was an emergency. I had to get to that. And then I'd have, people, extended family people calling me with issues or things. It was just an overloading of my system of stress. And we'd get through the day. My kids would get home. I'd be running around trying to decide what we're going to eat for dinner. I was constantly having to make decisions as I went, and it made me feel much, much more rushed and much more like I didn't know what to do next. There was just this almost like this freeze. Oh my goodness, I'm going to have to, do something about this or that or whatever. And so then we would, get done with dinner, do whatever, try to get the kids like through, whatever they needed to do, mostly, complaining about different things, getting into bed, all of these things, finally get them all taken care of. And then I just was like falling into bed or watching TV until I fell asleep. And I was constantly just living in this mode until it exhausted my system. And my nervous system basically just started to just shut down. Like I was just not doing well at all, just not functional. And I got to these places in life several times that I can point to, where I was just so stressed and so overwhelmed with life that my body just started to shut down. Like it was not going to keep working in that same manner. It couldn't put up with that much chaos. And so as I've been implementing these resources, I've been implementing them into my life. My life has completely shifted and completely changed. Now my life looks more like, before I go to bed at night, I have this like solid bedtime routine. I know how many hours of sleep that I want to get. And so my goal is to get the lights turned out and get down to sleep, at a specific time so that I can make sure that I'm going to get those hours. Now, some people can exist on more sleep and feel perfectly fine. I cannot. And I also cannot do coffee because caffeine just amps up everything in me. And so I have to do, anytime I'm doing coffee or anything, I try to do decaf because caffeine affects me so strongly. And so I need that sleep. That's so important for me. So I kind of build my stuff around it at night, and I get in bed at a certain time so I'm able to read. I like to read before bed, get my mind calmed down. That's when I do some reading, Bible reading, and some study, and maybe some reflection over the day. And then I have some talks with my husband. Now we just used to talk about whatever we wanted to talk about, like whatever happened during the day, and it'd be so stressful, or he'd be asking me financial questions before we went to bed, which is something that really amps up my system. There are just different things that we would discuss that would keep me from being able to calm my body down. And I've put a boundary around that. As I've learned how to resource, I've been like, if I do that, it's going to amp up my nervous system. It's going to take me that much longer to calm it down and get to sleep. And so we kind of put a boundary around that. And sometimes he'll start talking about something and I'll say, hey, is it okay if we discuss this tomorrow? Like, let's talk about it in the morning, or let's talk about it, on Saturday, whatever it is. If it can wait, we let it wait if it's going to really amp things up at night. So do that. I wash my face, brush my teeth, kind of have this routine. It's kind of telling my brain it's time to go to bed. I turn on my little lights back here, and then outside we have some string lights over the backyard. And so I turn those on. Sometimes I'll light a candle in the corner, just make it calming, a calming environment in my bedroom. We turn down the air, the temperature, so that it's cooler. And then we get ready to go to sleep. And then I go to sleep. I get all of that sleep. I wake up. I'm usually pretty refreshed, I'm not a morning person, so it takes me a little bit, which is nice that I have extra time. But I'm able to do what I need to do in the morning. I take out my planner. I do a little bit more, I do some reflection in the morning. I try to get 4 things in before I look at my phone. I'm still working on this because it's hard. Some days you just want to pick up that phone and get into your day. But I try to get some sunlight, Like I try to open up the curtains, even go outside, step outside, get a little bit of fresh air, sunlight, water, drink some water, get rehydrated, because during the night you're not drinking, and that's a long time to not be drinking. And so your body's ready for some water, some movement. So try to move around. Maybe even some people like to go for walks in the morning, like just get a little bit active. And then also prayer, which could also be, just thinking time, reflection time, gratitude time, something like that, to get in before the day like just really takes off. So then I kind of plan my day out. I try to have 3 main things that I want to get accomplished that day as my goals. And so whenever I start to feel lost in the day, like, what do I do next? I'm just like, oh, these are the things I wanted to accomplish. I like to be a flexible person. So I'm not one that likes to be like, at 8:15, I'm going to take a shower, and at 10, I'm going to do this or whatever. I just keep it flexible, but I have those things that have to be accomplished sometime in the day. And I have things that I do kind of keeping with routines during the day. So around lunchtime, I will break from whatever I'm doing, and I'll go like try to make something decently nutritious as a meal. I love to eat outside whenever I can, but if it's too hot or too cold, or, the weather is not permitting, I try to eat somewhere where I can see the outside, and somewhere where I'm going to feel relaxed and be able to digest my food well. And then after that, I have a planned like just rest break. So, whether it's a few minutes or whether I have time to do it for an hour, it depends. But, I'll read, or I'll just relax, or I'll do something that does not entail like work or drama or stress or whatever. And so I kind of do that around lunchtime, and then I get into my afternoon. I have stuff that I need to get done there. And then, the evening routine starts, and I kind of already talked about that. Once we, have dinner, my husband comes home. And it looks different every day. There's flexibility there, but it's so resourced. Like throughout the day, I have things like that I'll do. Like towards the evening hours, I'll try to get some exercise in. I'll go outside. I'll walk in the grass sometimes. Go barefoot to get some grounding in. And then right before I go to sleep, a lot of times I will do some somatic exercises, and that's a lesson that I have in this course. That have helped me tremendously in calming my body down and just getting my brain to kind of shut off, because it never shuts off. I'm kind of a deep thinker. So anyway, that's just my short story long of what it's like to resource, and the difference between living a life that's not resourced and one that is resourced. My life used to feel very chaotic, very stressful. Now it feels, most of the time, the chaos is limited, and I have margin and space that I've created. And life is still stressful. There's things that still happen, but I'm able to resource myself. So this is built gradually. This is not going to happen overnight. Change isn't something that happens overnight. And if there's a big change that happens to someone overnight, it's sort of a red flag. Like we should sort of question that. Like, how did they go from this to this kind of person to this kind of person, like instantly? Now, sometimes there's, traumatic events that happen in life, and that can change our perspective, and that can give us a new outlook, but it doesn't change our habits. We still have to build those new habits. And I totally believe in miracles. I believe that they can happen. I believe, that they do happen. I just believe that more often than not, God uses a practical route to get us to, where he wants us to be and where he wants us to go. And there's some responsibility that we have involved in getting there. And even if he like gives us a big leap in that, we're still going to have responsibility in taking the steps to stay there. And so that's why I said at the beginning of this course to choose 1 to 3 resources based on the assessment you did at the beginning of this course. Choose 1 to 3 of these lessons and really focus in on those resources, adding them to your life. Stay consistently focused for 3 to 6 months on those 1 to 3 resources, how many ever you think that you can handle without it really diminishing the quality, because quality is super important. Quality over quantity You want these resources to actually be making a difference in your life. So you really want to focus in on them. But if you stay consistently focused for 3 to 6 months, you've kind of implemented that resource into your life, and it will kind of just go with you. It's in you then. You've created that brain pathway, and when you don't have it or when you're not using it, you're going to miss it, and you're going to want to use it and look forward to using it. If you do this for a year, that's 2 to 12 resources that you're adding to your life every year. So if you're doing if you just use one resource and you're going to do the whole 6 months, you'll get 2 resources added to your life in that year. But if you are choosing 3 and you're able to do them in 3 months, that's going to be 12 resources. So, somewhere in between that 2 to 12 is what you're going to be able to add to your life each year. So think of where you would be in 5 years. You'd have been able to implement all of these things and really focus in on them and have a completely different life. If you get distracted or lose focus, don't give up. Don't just, say, oh, I can't do this. I have too much going on. I'm too busy, whatever. Just pick it back up. Pick up where you left off when you have time. Pick it back up. Each time you do this, you are making those brain pathways stronger, and you are actually implementing these resources. It may take you longer. It may take you a lot longer. It depends on your lifestyle now. It depends on what is necessary for you to actually survive. There's some people that live in survival mode just because they don't have the things around them that they need to be able to not live like that. And so I understand that there's different levels that we each have in our own lives of what we can do and what we can't do, but everybody can do something. And these resources, most of them that I've presented to you, are things that do not cost you money. I have recommended some different things to help with implementing them into your life, but without those, you can still do this. You can still do this if you just have these things, these gifts that God has given us. So just remember, once you have these resources, once you have implemented each of these resources into your life, you have that for the rest of your life. And so even though this seems like a lot of work in the short term, and it might seem like boring stuff in the short term, that is worth it on the other side, to have implemented these things and to have just a much better lifestyle. Just naturally, it's going to naturally occur once you've done the initial work in getting there. Now, that doesn't mean you're not going to have maintenance. That doesn't mean you're not going to have reminders. That doesn't mean that you're not going to have to come back to some of these things and really do some focused time on them. But you will have these in your toolbox. It's like having this hugely organized resource toolbox that you have there. So anytime you go through a stressful moment in life or a stressful season, you can say to yourself, you can say, what do we need to get through this? What do I need? How can I resource myself? And how is that, how can I use one of my resources to help me in this scenario? You're going to have all these kind of different things to be able to be kind and compassionate to yourself and give to yourself when you need them. You can stay subscribed to this course for however long you need it. I've tried to make it affordable enough to where you can have that subscription there each month to be able to go back over these lessons, to be able to review everything as you're building these resources in your life, or just to have to encourage you, to uplift you for however long you need it. And so you may be a person that can go through this whole course and be great and be like, okay, I've got all that. You can write notes, you know what the resources are, and then you can go start to work on them and implement them into your life. But you also may be the type of person that needs to go slower and not going through the whole course. So you may want to do a little bit at a time, and you totally have that unlimited availability of this for as long as you need it. And hopefully it's at an affordable price for everyone, because I feel like everyone can benefit from this information. Everyone can benefit from living resourced. Some of us already live a more resourced than others. but we can still be reminded, we can still get new perspectives, we can still refresh our knowledge. And I don't claim at all to have the corner market on any of this. I'm not a professional. This is just things that have changed my own life, and I want to pass them on to you. And so hopefully they will change yours.